Would you like to become a fascinating personality, break free from plateaus, and gain power over your mental resources and your full potential? You came to the right place. Welcome to a magical journey to yourself. This show is made in Germany. If you like the show, please subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, or puremindmagic.club. Welcome to Season 1, Shaping Your Reality. And here is your host, international magician, speaker, and book author, Victoria Mavis.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new episode of the Pure Mind Magic podcast. And today it will be all about commitment. I'm gonna tell you a very interesting story to that. But before we start, I want to highlight something really cool that just happened because I was an interview guest at Eric Hunley's podcast named Unstructured. And then Tyson E. Franklin, who's the host of the 365-hour Mental and Physical Challenge podcast, made a video from that and quoted things I have said in this interview. A very nice video, and you can check that out by going to my Facebook site. I'm going to put that in the show links. So thank you, Tyson, for this very creative idea. And maybe you as a listener, because you're listening to podcasts, really like audio. And for that, there is the opportunity that you get an audiobook completely for free that you can choose for yourself. You will find this link also in the show notes. That is the text that goes with this episode. So, back to the story. I just returned from a podcast movement in Philadelphia this year and really had a great time there and met some extraordinary people and also a lot of people where I'm listening to their podcasts on a regular basis. And so it's really cool when you meet the host then in person and live and can talk to them, because you have the feeling that you kind of know this person because you know the story, you know the voice, and then they are there. So really cool experience. But it was not that easy with podcast movement. I arrived in Philadelphia, flying in from Munich via Frankfurt. I arrived, but my suitcase didn't. This is about the nightmare for any magician, and of course also a nightmare when you're scheduled to have a session, what I did at Podcast Movement. Of course, I did a session about tricks to find great guests for your podcast. So it already started not really well at the airport in Munich. It was very crowded because, of course, now it's about summer holidays in Germany. And at the counter, they told me that I got a standby ticket. And probably you know that normally standby tickets is something that crew members have. So they see if there is still some room that they can hop on the flight. So, but in this case, I also got my standby ticket and they told me it is not sure that there will be some room for me on the plane. I thought fantastic, because I just got about an hour to change the plane in Frankfurt for another plane taking me to Philadelphia. So I was there waiting, and it was not only me with the standby ticket, and the crew somehow managed that everyone got on the plane. So I got a new ticket, got on the plane, landed in Frankfurt, but with about 1 hour delayed, because someone else has lost their passport on the plane we were about to board. And so, of course, everyone had to wait until the passport was found in the airplane. So they took another half hour, and normally it's just a 20 minutes flight from from Munich to Frankfurt, so it's a pretty short distance. So over in Frankfurt, I made sure that my luggage was really checked through to Philadelphia, what they said it was. But because of the delay, I had about 10 minutes to change the planes. And when you have ever been in Frankfurt, you know how huge this airport is for Germany. And I think it's the biggest in Europe. It's like a own city. And it is an international flight to fly from Germany to Philadelphia, so I had to go through passport control once again. And there was a huge queue, so time was running out. It was a thing of minutes. And as quickly as I got through passport control, I started to run, because I had about 5 minutes left to reach the gate to catch the plane. I saw that the door was still open and the crew waiting for just me, so I was the last passenger coming on the plane, and after me they just shut the doors and that was it. So everyone was already sitting there in the plane, and me arrived there like breaking in a sweat because it was really hot, sitting down, and then a few minutes later the plane took off. Arriving in Philadelphia, I had already this feeling, and maybe you know that when you kind of have this feeling that something doesn't go so well or in a way you expected it to. So I knew it was really a tough challenge for me to get that plane in Frankfurt, but I was quite sure that my suitcase, because my suitcase can't run, wouldn't make it to the second plane. And I arrived. I was really lucky with immigration, so I was in very fast. And then stood there at baggage claim, and there was another problem. So there was the alarm going on with the baggage claim, and someone came to fix it. It went on, one suitcase after the other, but there was no trace of my suitcase. And then I heard my name announced that I should contact an agent at the baggage claim. I thought that can't be a really good sign. So I went to someone there checking, and the nice lady from the airline said, "Oh, your suitcase didn't arrive. It is still in Frankfurt." And I thought, oh, perfect, because I didn't take anything with me in the hand luggage beside some of my magic tools I needed for the convention, and all the other equipment had to go in the bigger suitcase, you can imagine. So some magic tools are not very handy for the hand luggage. So she said, "Your suitcase will be delivered tomorrow to your hotel. Just double check the address and we will deliver it." So I went out of the arrival zone, checking the desk of this airline. And they said, "Yes, we have all your information and the suitcase will be delivered." So without anything, I jumped on a taxi to get to my hotel that was close to the hotel where Podcast Movement took place. It was Saturday evening while Podcast Movement was starting on Monday. So, with this jet lag, it's about a 7-hour time difference in the Eastern time zone there in Philadelphia compared to Munich, Central European time. So with the jet lag, I arrived there and it was kind of everything perfect. When things go wrong, they really go wrong. So I arrived and the weather was really, really bad. So it was raining heavily, and then it was also very windy. And as you can imagine, of course, my suitcase had the umbrella. So I had to find a way to get out of the hotel to buy some really necessary things around for, what women need. So I did that, grabbed some food, and then just got back to the hotel. And I thought, all right, I will find a way how I can deal with all that until tomorrow evening. I was not so happy about that because I had some pre-podcast movement meetings with attendees from Podcast Movement, what we set up already in Germany during podcast interviews and emails. But I didn't feel so good without anything and new clothes to go to these business meetings. So I stood in the hotel room and went out on Sunday to do some shopping for new clothes to be all set up for the start of Podcast Movement on Monday. Did so, and guess what? Sunday evening, no trace from my suitcase. So I thought, great, I will find a way to do that. Because this episode is about commitment, and I will talk to that a little more in the next minutes. So, being there, shopping, waiting for the suitcase, it turns Monday, and Monday there was already a tool workshop for podcasters about email marketing, but I had no chance to attend it because I had to go again shopping to grab some other clothes for the start of the convention. So I went there and I did some close-up performance during the registration. So there were 2,500 attendees, a lot of people in a big ballroom there. And luckily I got some of my equipment from the hand luggage, so being able to do that and already meeting the first interesting people there and exchanging business cards with them. So, what I forgot, before I even made it to the hotel where the podcast movement was, something new and very interestingly happened. Because in my hotel, when I got out and was about to go to podcast movement, there were everywhere police. It felt like maybe 50 police officers, and they all wanted to see my key card from the hotel. Over the hotel was a helicopter circulating, and then there were these big black cars that you know from movies all around. Also police officers with bicycles, and everything around the hotel was blocked. So when I came back from my shopping tour, I had 5 police officers escorting me back to the hotel. And that felt really strange because I had no clue what was going on, never experienced something like that before. And then finally I asked one of the officers what was going on in my hotel. And then they told me, oh, the Vice President of the United States is coming to your hotel to give a speech. And I thought, wow, what a coincidence, because it is a big country with so many states, so many cities, so many hotels in a city, and actually it was exactly my hotel where he gave his speech. So that had the effect that there was no chance to get a taxi or Uber car anywhere close to my hotel to take me to the other hotel with my equipment, because you can imagine everything was closed around 1 block around my hotel. So another extra challenge, but here comes again in the commitment. So I made the commitment I will be there at registration just in time, because I'm German and we are famous for being there in time. So I did that, showed up in my best mood and did some entertainment while a lot of people were waiting to get registered for Podcast Movement 2018. That is a story about that. So I got home from the first day. It got pretty late and I felt the jet lag. And as you can imagine, no suitcase. So already Monday. Yeah, this went on, and the new challenge I was facing is that I had to prepare my session for podcast movement, but the adapter for my notebook was also in my suitcase. So, for a European plug, you need an adapter when you try to charge it in the United States. So I once heard this advice: when you want to work really productive, then go to your local library, take your notebook with you, but don't take the cable with you. So you are forced to work very productive in this short amount of time and stay really focused to get everything done. This is exactly what I did to prepare the presentation. And this is also why my presentation had 4 PowerPoint slides compared to all the other sessions I've seen that had around maybe 25 or even more slides. So that was it. But the cool thing is, in the end, I had 2 participants from my session that came up after the session and said to me it was the best session so far they attended, what felt really good after all these challenges. But again, I made the commitment, I will do the session. I showed up. I found other ways to do it because my suitcase actually arrived at midnight before the day of presentation. And when you are interested in how the story turned out, how I made it finally to get everything together, also being able to do some magic during this session, you will find all the answers and the complete story about that and how to deal with challenges and how to create something out of nothing, because that is what I had to do. I had just nothing there. I had to take everything from Philadelphia, a city I have never been before, my clothes, my equipment, everything I just needed for this presentation and also for my performance. And all the answers will be in my new book that is about to get finished. The title is How Podcasting Can Change Your Life: Unleash Endless Possibilities. And don't get confused, because this book is published under my real name, not my stage name, Victoria Mavis, so you will find it under JSR. It is already on Amazon. You can find it by typing in the title, and I also will put the show notes, the direct link, so you can access that from any country in the world, and it will directly take you to Amazon in your country. There's also a picture of the book. It is on my Facebook page from Pure Mind Magic. This will be also in the show notes. And maybe magic creators out there, I could inspire you to stay committed when you once said that you will do something, because I learned it really enhances your self-worth and how you see yourself, your self-image, when you make a commitment and you stick with it and you really make it happen no matter what. And this really is the message of this episode. Don't care how many challenges you face and what obstacles you have to overcome. Stick with it, make it happen, find new ways, improvise, do whatever you can, find new partners, whatever it takes. Just make it happen and you will win in the end with that commitment. Goes for any area of your life, whether it's fitness or business or your private life or any appointments. Just stick with your commitment. And maybe when you find some inspiration or just like the story of this episode, I would be really happy if you drop me a note. You can email me anytime and I will get back to you, respond to your email. I'm also very happy when you can leave a review for Pure Mind Magic on iTunes or Podbean. That would be really fantastic. And as you heard in the beginning, I will then tell from you in another episode, and your name will be here in the podcast when you do that for me, and you also help with that grow the show and inspire more people with a little bit of magic all around the world. So I think I covered everything for today and you got the commitment message. You also now know that there is a book that will motivate yourself to get into podcasting, and you can find out everything from the show notes. So that's all about the midweek motivation this week. And in 2 days' time on Friday, there is another interesting interview waiting for you with Bradley Charbonneau, an interesting author who is an expert on audiobooks. So make sure to check that out, and I do my best to have another midweek inspiration for you next week. So have a magical day or night. Until next time, create some